All right. So a few weeks ago, um, someone had asked me if there was a way to um, subtract one time value from another time value, similar to the date diff function in REDCap. And unfortunately, there isn't a formula in REDCap or a calculation that you can do that's built in. But after mulling it over, I thought there might be a way to do it by converting it from a time value, each time entry, to an integer. And what got me thinking about that is similar to the way Microsoft Excel handles dates. If you ever click on a date in Microsoft Excel and accidentally turn it to a number, you'll see that it, based on, I think it's the epoch date, that it calculates like however many days past that date, it just adds a new day or a new number. It increments up every day. So I thought maybe that would be good. And the first thing that I checked was whether or not REDCap uses the 24-hour clock or AM PM, because if it was AM PM and it was a 12-hour clock, that was going to be a lot more complicated. But luckily, it uses a 24-hour clock, so it made the math really easy. So let me go in and show you what I built, and then I'll show you how I did it. So just a simple, two time values. And I think this was something where in their project, if a participant came in for a baseline visit or something, and then they had a certain amount of time from when they came in to they had a certain amount of time to get something done. There was like a window that started. And so whenever they came in for blood or something like that, they had to be within that window. And so that was what they were wanting to calculate. So here, just to show you this, I'm just going to set this to 0. And then the time, I'll set it to now. So what this is doing is it's saying that there's 790 minutes between midnight tonight and 1:10 p.m. today, and 13.17 hours. So depending on if you wanted it in minutes or hours. So what I did was, and it'll be easier to see this in the notepad here, is I took, so time 2 is the second field, and then time 1. So using the left and right functions in REDCap, I'm able to grab the hours. So left 2 characters is the hours, and then the right 2 characters are the minutes. If you were doing hours, minutes, and seconds, you would have to do you could still do left and right, but the right would be the seconds, and then for the minutes, you would have to do like the mid, because you're grabbing it out of the middle. So what I'm basically doing here is I'm grabbing the left 2 characters and I'm multiplying by 60, because that's, it's the number of hours. And then I'm adding the right 2 characters, which is the number of minutes. And so that's generating this value for time 2, which I was going to put in fields so you could see every step of the way, but it would have been, I don't think it would have been worth it. So here is this is what it's generating in the first time 2 value, and for example, it would be 0, because everything is 0 at midnight. And then this is time 1, or sorry, time 1 is 0, and then time 2 is 1310. So time 2 would actually come out to 790, and then time 1 would be 0. So, and then the only difference for the hours, if you wanted it in hours, is you would just wrap that entire function in parentheses. So you're grabbing that entire value that's getting output, the 790, and then you're just dividing that by 60. And then on top of that, you have to wrap that entire thing in another set of parentheses and use the round function and limit it to 2 characters. Because if you don't, it goes on for, I think, like 10 or 15 characters. So that, it's pretty simple. It was more of a thought process to figure out how to break it down into individual pieces and then build all those pieces back up again. And I think the project that ended up using this needed needed to include the date. So for what I did, this is, if they come in the morning, there's like a window, it's got to happen within the same day. But theirs had they could come in on a different day, and so they had to include the number of days, I guess. And she figured that out on her own, so I don't know exactly what she did. I think maybe she used the date difference, and then the time, or I don't even, she might have calculated, added, if there's a date difference, multiply that by, if there's one day, then that's 24 hours. So then you multiply that by 24 by 60, and you get the number of minutes. It was kind of unclear on exactly how they were doing it on their end, but she was happy with this, and she was able to go forward with what I had built for her. So does anybody have any questions on that?
Looks good. Everybody understand? Okay. I will demo something here in a second. I've got a little computer problem here. As soon as I get this cleared up. Give me a minute here. Ugh, frustrating. Let's see here. Sorry, everything's crashing here at the moment. Give me 1 second. Get rid of Chrome. Oh, goodness. I'm frozen up. All right. You want to see this? Oh, wait. Yeah. Hang on. I'll be right back. I'm going to restart real quick. Thanks.
while we're waiting for Terry, I can talk about using this as if we had minutes and seconds. So let me go back to my record. So if this was midnight and this was now, and this was midnight, this was now. Oh, that's because I got to do that. And then, so what I was talking about earlier was instead of using left and right for the hours and the minutes for the if you had the seconds in there, you would have to use the mid function. And so it's here, it's mid, and then what text you want, and then the start position, and then the number of characters. So for this, you would want mid, and then like time, I think I call this one time 3, and then you would want however many characters in, and you would have to count the colon as a character now, so it would be the 4th character in, and then so that's the start, and then the number of characters would be 2. And if you had the date time field, then you would have to do mid for both the hour and the minutes, and you would have to count in because your date would be like, what's today's date? It doesn't matter. 10/31, and then space, and then it'd be like that. And so you would, to get your hour, you would have to count in let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it'd be mid for the hour, it would be mid 12, and then for the minutes, it would just, I believe it'd be mid 15. So yeah, 15 to get the minutes. And then if you wanted the seconds, of course, it would be right. Because it's at the end. The nice thing about this is you could actually use these left, right, and mid functions to break apart your date if you need to. We've done that before with certain things where if somebody needed to add 10 days, or if they were wanting to compute a date, things like that. There's also easier ways to do it. If you now that REDCap has some functions to add dates and things like that, but before, when you couldn't, when you had to figure out like if something was 6 months down the road or something like that. And I use these in my time zone project as well, because if somebody had an appointment, the group was in Chicago, and if they had an appointment at 9 o'clock and the participant was like in Pacific time, and it was 9 o'clock Pacific time, they wanted to know what that was in Chicago time. Or if the person's appointment was at 9 o'clock Chicago time, they wanted to know what that was in Pacific time. So I had to break apart the time, and then use the time difference to add or subtract the hours, and then put it back together. So that way, depending on whether they clicked local or participant, it would toggle between the 2 different times for their appointment. So these little string functions are pretty handy.
Quick question, Manny.
Sure.
Does the hour, minute, seconds, does that ever actually include the AM and the PM? So then seconds wouldn't be at the very end?
I don't know. I think by default, REDCap does the
Military time always.
I believe so. I could have swore there was an option to have it.
That's what I was looking at as well. And
Yeah, I thought there used to be an option to have it where you could select, but I guess not. So yeah, it's just.
All right, just checking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever I was working on this before, I could have swore that a long time ago they had where you had the option of whether you wanted a 24-hour clock or not, but I don't know. I could have just been delusional. This definitely makes it a lot easier. Is, not having to worry about a 12-hour clock and AM, PM. So much nicer.
Agreed.
Yeah, and the calc text functionality in REDCap. Ever since they added the calc text, it's been so much nicer that you can actually do crazy things with actual text and values instead of just numbers and mathematical equations. So I use the calc text. I use calc text and I use the if statement within calc text all the time to assign variables and values.
Yeah, when we were at REDCap Con, that was like the mantra: calc text. Use calc text. Always use calc text.
The only downside to calc text is if you have a project like a big project that's been running a while, and then you throw some calc text in there, and then you have to go through and do the data quality rules to get them all updated. It's just remembering to do that, because we had some where like people's reports won't work. Like, I was expecting this and my report wasn't coming back right and things like that. And then you'd have to go like, oh, you have to do the quality rules if you're pulling it in and things like that. And then I go, oh, okay, now it's working fine. And so, but you beat your head up against the wall because you're like, the calculation's working. Like, you open up a record, the calculation's there. So you're like, why isn't it on this record? Why isn't my report looking right? And it's the data quality rules.